Good morning, all you wonderful YouTubers. Hey, welcome back to my channel, the Virginia Bushcrafter. And again, this is the channel where we continuously learn and we practice bushcrafting, prepping, and survival skills for the wilderness. So guys, I am out here today just to explore with a Plow Point shelter today. But specifically, I'm going to concentrate on speaking of a bushcraft knife. Yes, there are many different knives that you can use in the bush or for any outdoor activity. Many knives serve certain tasks or they perform better at certain tasks, but I'm going to focus on a bushcraft knife in particular. So, addition to that, I'm going to, of course, make a nice fire. But guys, again, I'm just out here in the wilderness, in the bush, practicing and honing my bushcraft skills. Bushcraft knives. Alright guys, so again, I'm going to speak on bushcraft knives. And I'm going to use my experience with my knives and what they mean to me and what I have been able to, type of tasks that I have been able to perform. I'm going to be speaking of a Condor Wayfinder, a Condor Terrasaw, and a cold steel, which is more or less a survival knife, and I'm going to explain to you why. Now, the first thing I want to say is that, again, there are many types of knives. There is a hunting knife, defensive knife, survivalist knife, bushcraft knife, bowie knife, machetes, many type of knives. And I'm sure that they all perform well. But again, it has a lot to do with the person's skills and abilities. Now, and again, this is all my experience and my opinion of bushcraft knives. Okay, let me get you in focus here. Okay, now, one of the most important things for me with the bushcraft knife is a fixed blade. This blade is one piece of steel, starts from the toe, and this steel goes all the way to the heel. So you can see from the toe to the heel. And I more or less call this a true full tang knife because the blade itself extends beyond the handle. I also can see the blade that's in the handle. This is a full tang knife. Now, on the Condor Terrasaw, again, from the toe of the knife all the way to the exceeding the handle, this shows me it is a true full tang. However, the blade itself is enclosed into a very nice rubberized grip. So again, that is a full tang knife, full tang bushcraft knife. This knife is not a full tang. However, it is a survivalist knife, and it can be used in the category of a Scandinavian grind that I'm going to talk about more. But this is more or less a partial tang because the blade stops in here somewhat. And this is more or less of a survival knife because it comes with a fishing kit, and as you can see, it's hollow on the inside, which can be used for gathering water. And again, as you can see inside, so it's not a full tang knife, but it's still a very good knife. Now, a lot of times, companies will advertise their knife as being full tang, but they will be a partial tang or a rat tail tang or a through tang. Now, a partial tang can be where the blade comes all the way and maybe stop in the middle, may stop somewhere in here. That is considered, if it stops somewhere in this portion, that's a partial tang. If it doesn't extend all the way to the end, it is not a full tang knife. That is a partial tang. Now, there's also something called a rat tail tang. That is where the blade will become narrower as it gets closer to the end. So you have a knife that is a partial tang, and I have two true full tang bushcraft knives. Now, one thing that I now require when I purchase a bushcraft knife, I must have a pommel. This also assists me in striking a ferrocerium rod, or if I have to smash acorns or anything else. With a true full tang knife, this pommel will be exposed at the end of the handle. Now, another thing, this is a spear point blade. If you notice how the blade, or let's say a drop point, it can be more or less, the proper name is a drop point, but since it's shaped in the formed in the shape of a spear, I call it a spear point blade. This conduit terrasaw is a drop point because it has a slightly drops here, and that's good for slicing or putting pressure on something. This knife is a drop point as well. As you can see, this is a drop point as well. Now, what do they all have in common? The grind, the edge, is a Scandinavian grind, more or less known as a Scandi. Now, if you notice, this portion of the blade is a flat point, but when you get to this portion, there is an angle change or something known as a bevel on this side as well as the other side. This bevel comes to a 0 degrees angle. All of these come to a 0 degree angle. They all start off with a flat grind. There's a bevel or an angle change that goes to a 0 degrees. That is a Scandinavian grind. And this is why the survival knife, I use it as a bushcraft knife as well, because it has a Scandinavian grind. So that's some of the importance of a bushcraft knife. Now the thing about a bushcraft knife, some people will actually put another bevel at the end, and that's called a micro bevel. An example of a micro bevel can be the knife that I'm carrying with me now, which is a Condor Mountain Pass camp knife. This knife, a very high flat grind, there's a bevel grind, there's a bevel change. At the very end, there's a micro bevel. That is what keeps this from becoming a Scandinavian grind. So, again, some individuals will put a micro bevel at the very end, and this makes the blade stronger. Now, one con that I have about a Scandinavian grind, especially a carbon steel, is that each time you use it, it does require a lot of care to stand the edges back up. The thinner this edge is, it becomes brittle and it has a tendency to roll. But if you use the knife for its true purpose, you won't have an issue. Now this is steel. This cold steel is steel, but it's a soft steel. And if you notice, as I have sometimes baton through some knots, I have, let's see, a chip. The only way that chip is going to be removed or disappear is that I will have to re-profile this blade, which I'm not going to do because I've had this knife a very long time and it was only $10. This is a great practice knife, but you can use it in the bush as well. So now another thing about a bushcraft knife, the blade would usually be between 4 to 6 inches. I believe this one is maybe like 5 inches. This blade on the Condor Terra Saw is 4 inches. And the blade on the cold steel is 5 inches. I personally like blades that are long because that allows me to do batoning or splitting wood more efficiently when the blade is longer. Now, again, this is carbon steel, this is carbon steel, and this is stainless steel. This will not rust. Whereas with a carbon steel, if you don't take proper care of it, it will rust. And what I do to take care of my blades when I get home, I wash them off with liquid detergent, liquid dish detergent. I stand the edges up. I put a light coat of some type of oil on them, usually some type of firearm oil. Put them back in the sheath and they're good to go. So again, quickly, the main thing of this bushcraft knife is the Scandinavian grind. So with that said, let's move on to the next item. The next important thing is the handle. When you put a knife in your hand, you want that knife to feel comfortable. On this Condor Wayfarer, these are walnut handles. And if you notice, the contour fits my hand very well. Very well. The knife, and usually it has to feel good in your hand. On the Condor Terra Saw, a rubberized grip. It does have contours here, a nice swell, and a swell is where part of the handle will bow outwards. This has a very nice swell. Now the cold steel, believe it or not, this one is the greatest. There's no swell on it, but it does have these rubber, I want to say rubber bands, which gives me a very good firm grip. And the diameter of this is just perfect. It's perfect. So that's on the grip. Now, another thing that's very important with a bushcraft knife is the sheath. Condor has a very nice sheath. When you are not using your knife, the only place for that knife to be is in the sheath. This sheath rides on your belt, so it's very comfortable. Now the thing with this sheath, if it gets wet, you want to make sure it dries out before you put your knife back in it for a long term or for storage. On the Condor Terra saw, the sheet is not leather, but the sheet also has two drain holes. So if water goes in it, it's going to drain, and this is very, very secure. It has a push, thumb push, and I myself, I put Gorilla Tape around it with a ferrocerium rod tape, so that I have something to start a fire with, strike the ferrocerium rod, and I have tinder. The sheath on the cold steel is very good. Locks in place, nothing comes out. This sheath also comes with a ferrocerium rod. Now, they have always said it is somewhat difficult to use steel to strike a ferrocerium rod, but again, it is fundamentals. I am a believer of fundamentals. Now, another important thing about Scandinavian bushcraft knives is the spine. The spine is 90 degrees, which assists very much in striking a ferrocerium rod in order to throw sparks. Sparks very easily. That's with the Condor Wayfinder. This is the Condor Terra saw. Now keep in mind, this is a very small ferrocerium rod, but if you do your job, your tools will do their job. So I'm going to put these back into the sheath, and we're going to move on to what I consider to be the next important thing for a bushcraft knife, and that is, what are we going to do with this? What are the major tasks that you would do with a bushcraft knife? Again, one of mine is to assist in starting a fire. So let me get a ferrocerium rod. That is one of the most important things to be able to start a fire. Again, this is with a large ferrocerium rod. There's a technique. If you put your knife 90 degrees and tilt it to 85 degrees, you're almost guaranteed sparks. And if you notice, the larger the ferrocerium rod, the more sparks you get. This is steel. So the next thing is that you want to use it to make tinder. Now tinder is something that will take a spark from the ferrocerium rod. And one of the ways to make tinder is just by being able to make wood thinner. For example, if you have a piece of wood this size, and I'm going to put these back in the sheath. And just quickly, you want to be able to make tinder, at least by being able just to baton the wood. Again, and this is a very, very easy task. So that's basically what you want to do. But to make tinder, you can either just make feather sticks or curls. And that is the good thing about a Scandinavian grind, because you can just put the edge of the blade here, tilt it until you feel some resistance. So with each knife, you can do that with each knife. So again, if you do your job, it will do its job. Now, the next thing you can use your knife to create, help build a shelter, build a fire, process water. You may have to dig a hole, use a tip for digging a hole. You may have to use part of this knife to make a bow drill. By making a divot. And a good way to practice these skills is with a tri-stick. Making your different notches, your log cabin notch, your saddle notch, your V notch, your pot hanger notch, a splitter for making cordage. So even to process your food. But guys, I wanted to go over and again, just talk about bushcraft knives. A bushcraft knife will make the task much easier, but you can even chop a tree down with this. You can fell a tree just by what they call a beaver cut. That's just by cutting here, cutting upward, all the way around. I'll show you just a little bit of that. You just actually take this, if this was a tree, and you're just going to beaver cut all the way around, upward, downward, upward and downward, up horizontally at an angle. You can actually fell a tree. If you cut here, going to chop here and downward. So there are many tasks that you can perform with a bushcraft knife. So guys, I just wanted to let you know, this is my another thing about a bushcraft knife, something that I require, is a lanyard hole. This allows me to get a better grip with leather gloves and great handles. You're going to be able to have a very firm grip, and that's what's needed. Now, if there was anything that I would add to my bushcraft knives, would be jimping. Jimping is usually at the top here. And none of my bushcraft knives have jimping. Other ones do. This does not have jimping, but other ones do. But so with these knives, everything you perform with a bushcraft knife should be able to perform it with your other knives. Again, it's fundamentals. It requires practice. So with that said, guys, I am going to build a fire. But before I build a fire, and it's relatively warm here, but the ground is wet, I am going to modify my shelter. Hey guys, so the type of shelter I have built or constructed is a plow point shelter. And as you can see, it's very roomy, could easily accommodate 2 people with their equipment, 1 person easily with their equipment. And this is a 10 by 10 tarp. But I want to open this up to give me just some more room. So what I'm going to do is just remove one of the corners, and I'm going to hoist it up with another piece of wood. So let me do that, and we'll come back and discuss that. This is how it looks now. And this is the shelter now. All right, guys, so you can see the versatility of using a tarp. I decided to use this style because it is getting warmer. The sun comes from the east. I want the sunshine to help dry out the wood. So I just did this by removing one of the corners on the plow point and just attaching it to another part of Mother Nature. So I'm going to have a nice little fire here. And another thing is that when I initially had this corner further down, you always take a risk of maybe the fire may get kind of large, or burning a hole, an ember may burn a hole into your tarp. So I think this is the safest way. So I'm going to clear this area out, and we'll have us a meal. Hey guys, one other thing to mention about a bushcraft knife is that they're usually, the edges are usually the spine is usually 1/8 to 3/16 of an inch. But I'm gonna use this to process a few pieces of wood. So basically I'm gonna split it, make some feather sticks, and show you again how well a bushcraft knife works. Real quick, I'm just going to split a few pieces of wood. Get this small enough to demonstrate some feather sticks very quickly. And very quickly just finding an angle each time, just rotating it. And this is the ease of using a bushcraft knife. Very, very easy with a Scandinavian grind knife. Of course, this can be done with any other knife. But as you can see, get a piece of wood that's somewhat stronger. A bushcraft knife makes the work so much easier. Take advantage of the full pommel. Just that quick. So guys, again, bushcraft knife, it is different from a survival knife, a defensive knife, bowie knife, hunting knife, fillet knife, It has its specified purposes, but you can do whatever you need to do in the bush with this knife. So I'm going to go ahead and process some wood, and we're going to make some fire. Hey guys, the fire that I'm going to make is going to be started with flint and steel. Here's the steel, and here's the flint. Now, this is my fire lay, and this is something I haven't done in a while, but just because I want to practice, I'm going to throw a spark or an ember onto this char cloth, and then we'll talk about that. But let me see if I can put you in focus here. Yeah, the objective is to get a ember on the char cloth. Getting the sparks, but they're not landing where I want them to land. Let me position this differently. Now let's try this. Okay. You can see I do have it. So as you can see, now I'm going to place this into a tinder bundle that I hope it works. And there we have fire. And I'm going to start adding some wood to this. But the wood is again, the wood is wet. I'm going to Yep, this wood is Let's see if we can try something else here. Look like we're still getting smoke, but we do have a ember here. Seems like this wood is actually too wet to take a spark. But guys, this is just a another way of starting fire with char cloth. You're actually taking char cloth, putting it onto some flint, and striking the steel. Position this differently. Or you can just put it directly into the pan and strike downward. By switching the flint to the other hand, but we know that it's too wet. The wood has to be dry, but that is too wet. So we are going to use a ferrocerium rod. Hey guys, so since the wood is so wet and the tinder bundle is not responding to the flint and steel, I'm going to go ahead and start this fire with something we always carry with us, and it's part of preparedness, and that's Vaseline cotton ball. So let's see if we can get this started with the cotton ball and Vaseline, and then we'll add the tinder. All right, guys, as you can see, cotton ball and Vaseline always worked. It's great as a backup. So we just now need to feed this fire. All right, guys, so again, it's good to come out and just practice these skills, which I was pretty sure that it was going to be very, as you can see, the tinder bundle that is wet, how it is catching, but again, that's because the Vaseline, the cotton ball with the Vaseline, and now it is burning some birch and some other tinder. But guys, it's always good to just come out here and practice, even though I knew that this the tinder bundle was still damp. You can tell it was damp by when I place it on my face. If I feel coldness, I know it's wet. But nevertheless, I always carry cotton balls and Vaseline along with other do-it-yourself starters. But it's good to practice. So I was able to practice with the flint and steel, but what I'm going to do is also make char cloth, because every time you use char cloth, you are depleting your supply. So what I use today, I'm going to replace it by making more char cloth. So let's get this started, and we'll be back to talk about the char cloth. All right, guys, the fire is going pretty well, but I'm going to now make some char cloth, because as I mentioned, as you use the char cloth, you actually deplete your supply. So here is some char cloth that I have left over, but I'm just taking a pair of denim jeans that I've cut up. Denim jeans that I've cut up, and I'm going to place them in an Altoid can. And this Altoid can has a hole at the top, and now it's just a matter of tossing this into the fire for about 10 minutes. And I'm going to try to do it so that in a controlled way. The smoke is really tough. But what I'm going to do is put the Altoid can, just toss it into the fire. I'm just going to toss it right there. And we're going to wait for smoke to come out of it. But again, guys, this is just practice. Again, oh, the smoke, excuse me, the smoke is really, but this is just practice. Again, I tried to use the flint and steel. The tinder bundle was too wet, but I wanted to try it anyway. So I resorted back to cotton balls and Vaseline, which always worked. But so I'm just going to show you. You can see now the flames that's coming out of the Altoid can. So when I no longer see any flames or smoke, I'm going to remove the Altoid can. I'm going to let it cool down, and I'm going to have more char cloth. The char cloth that I used earlier, I am replacing it. Yeah, you can see that char cloth is really, it's burning in there. It's turning to char cloth. The denim jeans are turning into char cloth. So those flames coming out of the Altoid can won't last too much longer. So when it stops and it turns to smoke, then we'll talk about that as well. So guys, again, I'm just out here just practicing. There's so many things to learn. You know, today I wanted to cover many things. The shelter, covered the shelter, did a plow point. I've actually opened it up even more so. If it was going to rain, I would just lower the part that I lifted. I do have ample water. I do have food. I was able to make the fire. I do have all my signaling devices, even though I will be out of here way before it's dark. But I have the flashlight, the headlamp with the blue, red, and light. It also strobe lights. My compass has a mirror on it. I do have Gorilla Tape that I could make the 3 X's on the back of a tarp. So again, just out here going over those 5 elements again: shelter, water, food, fire, and signaling. And you can pretty much see there's not any more flames are not coming out of the Altoid can, but I know the char cloth is not ready. Another thing about the char cloth, you cannot overcook it, that's for sure. You can undercook it, but you can't overcook it. Hey guys, so my meal today consists of cheddar broccoli, rice and pasta blend with broccoli and a cheesy cheddar sauce. And I am really looking forward to it. So again, this is the meal I'll have for today. But of course, I do have other food with me. In the event that I had to stay longer than I had planned, I know I have enough food to last me tonight and tomorrow morning. But guys, I'm gonna wait for this to finish cooking, which should be about 2 more minutes, and then we will have a full stomach. Hey guys, well, I have completed my meal. I've taken a quick break, but I just want to say again, this was a good day of practice for me. Again, just to recap, I came into the bush this morning. I made a plow point shelter, and to show the versatility of it, I just removed one of the corners and use part of Mother's Nature to prop it up to give me a lot of opening. I was able to go over the Bushcraft knife again, even though there are many knives. The Bushcraft knife is a carving knife, and you can survive in the bush with just a Bushcraft knife, depending on your skill level or the things that you have learned. For example, even felling a tree with a 5-inch blade. All the benefits of a Bushcraft knife with the 90-degree spine. The width is usually 1/8 to 3/16. They usually have a drop point or a spear shape. They're very good when they're full tang. So just learning how to use a Bushcraft knife is great. Got to practice the Firecraft using char cloth, Flint and steel, and char cloth, and trying to get a tinder bundle lit when it was still somewhat damp with char cloth. So it was an effort, but it wasn't successful. So I reverted back to what a lot of bushcrafters keep with them is Vaseline, cotton balls and Vaseline. So I did that. I was able to make a fire with the even though the wood was wet, I was able to dry it out, split it, made some feather sticks, used some curls, got a fire started, prepared me a meal, and just all around just came out here to practice and enjoy Mother's Nature. Mother Nature has a lot to offer you. For me, it's very peaceful. It's a place that you can really come and hone your skills. You know, you don't get the opportunity, well, you do have the opportunity to practice on acreage that is not even. There's always something that is up and down. You learn not to rush because you don't want to step into a hole and twist your ankle. There is never a need to rush anything when you are in the bush, especially when you are handling a cutting tool. Just be aware that when you get tired, put the cutting tool up and just rest for a while. But this has been it's been a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to doing an overnighter very soon. But again, the main thing I wanted to do was put up the plow point and actually convert it to where there's an apron. And this gave me a lot more room. So guys, with that said, I'm going to break down my camp, pack everything up, and I'm going to see you on my trek out. All right, guys, I am getting ready to trek out of the bush. It has been another fun day. I thank you guys for coming along with me. I hope I have imparted some knowledge on you or something that you like. So this is the Virginia Bushcrafter signing off. And with that said, like father and son, mother and daughter, human and nature, we are all akin of some form of fashion. Get out in the bush and have some fun.